Battle Network is probably my favourite Mega Man series. It's between this and the X series, and to be completely honest, my opinion changes on this based on how I'm feeling on any particular day. Somewhat recently, I finally got round to platinuming the collection. Yes, I know I'm late, shut up. So I thought, what better way to celebrate the series than to rank how much of a pain in the bum the trophies can be. But which game is the biggest pain in the bum? And which is the smallest, just a little bump? That's what we're here to figure out today. Before we get into it though, there are some things to note. First off, keep in mind that the Legacy Collection has content that was removed in the original Western release for whatever reason, and then re-added for the Legacy Collection. So if you've only played the original and think what I'm saying sounds a little different or weird, that's probably why. Second, Legacy Collection also includes patch cards that can make the game easier by giving you OP chips or other useful benefits. These won't affect the ranking too much, and in fact there are some trophies that need you to download these, but I still thought I should mention them here. Third, you may be aware that there are some trophies in the collections that are counted across games. For example, Jack-in 100 times counts across all the games in any particular collection. For the purpose of this video, we're just going to ignore those ones and just focus on game-specific trophies. There's technically an exception to this, but we will get to that when we get to it. Finally, I should talk about Buster Max mode. What this does is give your Buster 100 times damage, which basically negates all challenge. Because of this list is more going to be about the different tasks you need to do for the trophies rather than the base difficulty of the game itself, which is sort of what I wanted for this video. It's more specific to the trophies that way. And no, I didn't use the Buster Max mode for my normal playthrough. That's basically not playing the game. I totally used it for when I had to replay parts I'd already beaten though. With all that said though, let's get into this. Starting with the game with the easiest trophies, which is... Already I was torn on whether to put this game or the next one as the easiest, but I ultimately decided on Battle Network 2, mainly because I managed to get all the trophies before beating the game, which is something that I did with no other game on this list. There's a couple of optional bosses in Gateman and Toadman that you need to beat for trophies. They're not super difficult, but you don't encounter them as part of the story, so I had to mention them. Next up, answer the Quiz King's questions. Again, you can trial and error this, or just look up the answers, up to you. Next up, you need to get an S license. You upgrade your license rank by doing requests, and you need 13 out of the 18 total for an S rank. However, 3 requests need to be done for the main story, and 5 specific requests need to be done for their own trophies. These being Paying in Advance, Need a Cupid, Help Research, Please Help, and Return My Gem. This means you really only need to do 5 extra, which is not that bad at all. All these requests are generally for talking to specific people, often followed by a battle or several battles. Hardest part is probably just finding the characters honestly, though that's something I'd say about these games on the whole. The last thing to discuss for this game is the main reason I was umming and ahhing about where this game should be placed, that being the styles. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the style system. I think it's confusing and takes too long to change. For the trophies, you need to get each of the 4 styles, that being Guts, Custom, Team, and Shield. You get one style during the story, and then it takes 280 battles to get another one. Which one you end up getting is determined by how you play. You get Guts style if you use the Buster a lot, you get Custom style if you do things like sending a lot of chips at once or program advancing, you get Team style if you use Navi chips, and you get Shield style if you use defense chips and don't get hit. Now you might be thinking, well, 280 battles is an awful lot to get for one new one. That means 840 battles to get all 4, right? So why is this game the easiest? Well, not to give the game away, but these are the trophies I was talking about earlier that you can do in either Battle Network 2 or 3. And it takes a lot less time in 3, so you don't need to do them in 2. Removing the styles, everything else is really simple for this game, which is why it's at the bottom of the list. So to start with, I think I'll say that I'm not going to keep repeating, you need to beat the game, for every game on the list, because of course you do, that just makes sense. What I will say though that's a bit more relevant is that for all the games that have more than one version, Battle Network 3 through 6, you do need to beat both versions of that game, which once again, I'm not going to repeat for the other games. I've told you once, you don't need reminding. Now for Battle Network 5 specifically, a large portion of the trophies are just for beating the Liberation missions, which are all mandatory for the story, so you don't need to do anything extra to worry about it. Another set of trophies need you to use every double soul in both versions of the game. game. There's 5 per game, and all of them are unlocked by just progressing the story and are unmissable. To activate these, you need to sacrifice a chip of the corresponding type to the soul you want to use. So for instance, Magnet Soul is electric type, so you sacrifice an electric chip to use it. None of the chip types are out of the way. I had everything I needed by the time I unlocked each soul. That actually only leaves one achievement for this game, which is for collecting all 12 dark chips in the game. These are all in static locations. There's no drop luck or anything required. Most are just bought from NPCs around the world, which become available as you progress through the game. But there are a few that need a bit more work. One needs you to answer the Quizmaster's questions, not difficult, but a bit more effort than just forking over some cash. One can be gotten from the lotto machine in Higsby's shop. I'm actually unsure if there is a normal way to get this other than using the code. Finally, there's one hidden behind a door that needs you to get the Nebula ID to open. This is not hard to get, it's just another case of buying it from an NPC. None of these are missable either, so you can go to get them at any point, even after beating the main game. The main reason I put this game higher than Battle Network 2 is simply because you have to do an extra playthrough in the other version, so it will take longer. The actual difficulty of the task though might be easier. Battle Network 6 is one of my favourites of the series, and that's almost entirely down to the fact that it's the only one I was actually able to beat as a kid. That didn't mean a whole lot when going for the trophies though. For the trophies, you first need to use each of the 5 crosses in each version for a total of 10. These are very similar to Double Souls, but you don't need to sacrifice a chip to use them, which is tickety-boo. However, there's nothing stopping you from skipping most of these and just progressing the story without them. Other than the first one though, I think you need that one. They're not super out of the way though, and some are pretty darn good, so probably good to get these even on a non-completionist run. The only other trophy we need to talk about, and I'll get to why, is for completing all requests in the game. That's 25 in the base game and 10 more as patch cards that also need to be done. Now most of these are completely fine. They're generally either talking to NPCs or the odd virus battle here and there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the one that is the main reason this game is as high as it is the one called Self-Research. This one needs you to perform a specific program advance. The first 2 chips are easy enough to get. You can buy a Poiseed P from a bug frag trader in Sky area, and then you can get a second one from the chip order. The final chip you need is Anubis P, which is in Graveyard 2. Now why is this a pain? Well, first off, to get into Graveyard 1, you need 100 different standard chips, which admittedly is not that bad. For Graveyard 2 though, you need to get all 45 Mega Chips. Mega Chips are basically all the Navi chips. A lot of the friendly Navis can be gotten through patch cards, which is helpful due to Proto Man maybe being soft-locked due to how requests work. You can't cancel the request once you start it, which can stop you getting the higher rarity of Proto Man chips which you need in order to complete this request. Like I said though, the patch cards make this a non-issue. To get the enemy Navi chips, you need to defeat the ghost data on the net. They'll be at a dead end in a specific area, look them up yourself, and that will give you the lowest rarity after defeating the ghost. Then they can appear in a random battle on the same map, powered up, where you can get the second and third rarity. The count also works like this, but you need to beat a little side quest first, and to unlock that side quest you need to defeat Base, so there's another thing you have to do. The final 3 Mega Chips are for Django. The first rarity can just be bought, and the second is mystery data, but the third needs a lot more work. The third is the reward for clearing the final match of Virus Battler. How this works is you place viruses down to battle other viruses. I'm not going to give a whole guide here, I use some combination of these ones to beat all the battles. How you get viruses to use is you have to first defeat a number of the viruses, which can then let rare versions of that virus spawn in specific maps. Once again, look up the specifics yourself, and then beating the rare version unlocks them for you to use. So yes, only after doing all that can you go to Graveyard 2 to get the Anubis P to complete the final request. Honestly, if you didn't need to do patch card requests, this game would probably be lower on the list, especially because I consider it one of the easier games in the series, maybe even the easiest. Battle Network 4 is probably my least favourite of the games, and it's honestly mostly because of going for the platinum. In case you don't know, the gimmick for this game is that you have to compete in tournaments throughout the game, and the opponents you end up facing are randomised within the selection. This is bad as there are trophies for defeating certain Navis that you might not get. The game does have New Game Plus though, which is integral to this game. The random tournaments are obviously designed to incentivize you to play through more than once. The trophies also incentivize this, as you need to get all the double souls in each version of the game. There are 6 souls each, and I'm pretty sure you can only get a maximum of 3 per playthrough. However, there's no guarantee that the second playthrough will give you the one you don't have, though I think a third playthrough does guarantee it. Yes, you are thinking correct. With 2 versions, you will likely need to beat this game 6 whole times for all the trophies. But it isn't as simple as just needing the souls. Oh no. You also need to get all 150 standard chips in the game. Now you may think this is simple. Just do it at the end of your first playthrough and then do the next 5 relatively quickly. No, you can't do that. To further encourage players to use New Game Plus, you can only get rarer chip rarities on second and third run-throughs. Basically, first playthrough, level 1 viruses appear, second has level 2, and third level 3. This actually makes gathering chips more annoying than you'd think. Say you missed a level 2 chip on playthrough 2 and are now on playthrough 3. Level 2 viruses can now not be found on the net, so areas that you can find them are suddenly a lot more limited. You can still find them in isolated places you can jack into, but there is not as much info on that online as you would want. You can get chips from the chip trader, but that's a random chance, and no, I don't know the specific numbers and percentages. It's just really annoying. This one is probably the least fun for the trophies, mainly just because you need to play through it 6 times. That's too much for a whole platinum trophy, let alone this small part of one. Battle Network 3 is the first game to have 2 versions, a trend that I'm glad is mostly gone. Now if only we could get Pokemon to stop doing it and focus on making a good game for once. Anyway, this game having 2 versions is kind of weird, as it's not as equal as later games. You need to defeat the optional boss Punk for a trophy, and he's only in blue version. White doesn't replace him with anything, he's just not there. Weird. Similar to Battle Network 2, you need to do specific requests, these being help with a will, give your support, hide and seek, and legendary tomes, as well as help with rehab for its reward of the humor program, but that's a separate trophy. There's some miscellaneous tasks as well, such as for answering the Quiz King's questions again, but the same advice applies for the previous times I mentioned it. Styles return from Battle Network 2 and they aren't as much of a pain. Instead of the 280 battles required in Battle Network 2, in this game you only need 100 battles, which is far more manageable. In addition to the 4 styles returning from Battle Network 2 that have the same requirements as that game, there's 3 additional styles with only 1 being shared across both versions. That is Bug Style, which is unlocked by having bugs affecting Megaman by messing up in the Navi customizer, placing blocks in the wrong places or with adjacent blocks being the same color. White version has Ground Style, which is unlocked by using chips that affect panels. Blue version has Shadow Style, which is unlocked by using invisibility chips. Next up, we'll talk about the Virus Breeder mode. Thankfully, not too much you need to do. Once you have a single type of virus, you need to feed it 20 times, costing a total of 100 bug frags. And then go defeat the boss version of that virus, which is in a specific location. The Met boss is in the 5-1 blackboard as an example. You only need to do 1. Honestly, the most harmful part of this is how much bug frags it costs. That's because the final trophy we're going to look at needs you to trade with the secret bug frag trader 20 times for a grand total of 200 bug frags. He's not in an easy to reach place though. He wouldn't be secret if he was. He's in secret area 3. To get to him though, it takes a lot of extra work. I'm amazed this dude gets any business, he's so far out the way. First off, you need 140 total standard chips. Second, you need 1 Giga chip, which is easy in Legacy Collection, you can just patch card base in. And finally, to get to him, you need all friendly viruses and their associated chip. Yeah, I lied earlier when I said you only need 1 friendly virus. How does that make you feel? On a serious note though, you don't need the stronger version of the virus, only the base one, so it's not as bad. After all that though, and some extra bosses you have to fight along the way, you can get to the trader and fork over 200 bug frags, which is not an insignificant amount, and get the trophy. No, there's no way to save scum it. Battle Network 3 has a deceptively large amount you need to do for its trophies, as well as being the first game to have 2 versions, but it's not the one that I found the hardest. Oh no, that would be... You can absolutely make a case that I only found this one the hardest to get the trophies in because it's the first one I did. I had less idea what I was doing and so on. And for the most part, the trophies in this game are actually the easiest out of all the games. Answer the quiz master, get all the addresses. These are very easy things to do. There's optional bosses in Woodman, Skullman, and Sharkman that you're probably going to want to do anyway. And there's 3 side quests that aren't much work in helping an old man find his dentures, repairing a vending machine, and finding some stolen bank money. All these are similar to the other side quests we've previously mentioned. Find the people and maybe have a battle to solve the problem. This is all fine, and if this was all you needed, I would not have the game near the top of the list. Nope, this game needs you to get every chip in the game. Yup, all 176 of them. Now this is admittedly a lot less than other games, being the first one and all. However, this isn't as generous as say 4 for only needing the standard chips. There's no split here, it's every chip including the Navi chips. I'm not going to go into every single chip. If you've gone for all the chips, you know how much of a pain it can be. The game though basically needs you to do everything. You know Base is the secret boss and he drops a chip, so guess what? Have fun getting to Base and then beating him. I think that makes this game the only one where you have to defeat the hardest enemy in the game. Yes, you need to beat Base in 6, but you don't need to fight the harder forms of Base that come after. He's not the strongest enemy in that game. That's not even mentioning the other Navis you have to hunt down for all their chip rarities, which is harder in this game because every map is a blimmin' maze. Side note, really glad they made the maps easier to navigate in later games. There's the chip trader, which can give you some chips, but then not others. It can admittedly save you some time and effort, but it doesn't save you the hard stuff. People may disagree with this being the hardest, and that's fine, but for me, I'll be honest, it wasn't even a competition. I put the number 1 slot in before everything else. And that's my list. Do you agree with my order, or would you switch a few around? Let me know all that in the comments below, and while you're down there, why not like and subscribe? It's free, helps me out, and gives you easier access to my videos, both old and new. Also, let me know if you'd like to see this same kind of video for the other Mega Man collections. I'd love to know. I really struggled with the placements here, and honestly, by the time this goes out, my opinion might have changed. Thank you for watching the video. For now though, I'm off, hunt them tropes, and I'll see you next time.